In the rapidly expanding world of electric vehicles, the race to establish a robust charging infrastructure has emerged as a paramount concern for automakers and investors alike. Car manufacturers have realized that they can't sell vast quantities of EVs without a reliable and convenient charging network. However, in a surprising turn of events, Ford Motor Company has recently forged an alliance with Tesla, opting to adopt their charging standard and leverage their renowned Supercharger network. Yet some investors have expressed reservations about this move, potentially diminishing Tesla's competitive advantage, along with Elon Musk continuing to open up Tesla's charging network to third parties. At the same time, customers find themselves in a tight spot as they grapple with concerns over potentially increased lineups as they wait to charge their vehicles. However, this groundbreaking collaboration between Tesla and Ford will surprise to the upside, as it constitutes a resounding win-win scenario for all stakeholders involved, including investors and the loyal customers of both industry players. And before we continue, stop using Yahoo Finance, stop using Google Finance, and have a look at our website, themarketisopen.com, where we have instant stock quotes and a brand new set of quarterly financial data going back up to 15 years on over 9,000 stocks, and it's all freely available. Tesla is in a unique position since early on, Elon Musk directed the company to invest aggressively into electric vehicle chargers. Tesla launched its charging network back in 2012, with just 6 superchargers alongside the release of the Model S. Today, Tesla operates the largest fast charging network in the world, with 5,000 stations and 45,000 connectors globally. And Tesla is currently growing the network at an astounding 33% annual clip. Now, fairly recently, at the end of 2022, Tesla took their proprietary charging technology and opened up the connector and the design to all automakers, renaming it the North American Charging Standard, or NACS, in the process. The Tesla-designed connector is much smaller and easier to maneuver than the widely used competing Combined Charging System, or CCS, standard, and is proven to be more robust compared to the stalls where CCS is used. Now, lately Tesla has already been opening up its network to third-party vehicles who can charge at Tesla Superchargers, and Tesla does this by incorporating its Magic Dock onto its chargers, which still allows Tesla users to access the regular Tesla charger as usual, but also doubles as a CCS charger with an adapter. And Tesla will continue to roll these out. However, the recent game-changing deal with Ford will mean that future Ford vehicles that are produced will only come with the Tesla NACS connector, and a CCS adapter would need to be used for CCS-based chargers, whereas today it's the reverse. Ford CEO Jim Farley has even touted the ease of use of Tesla's connector and its robustness, which includes Tesla's legendary uptime compared to third-party chargers, which are more commonly found to not be functioning at all. Now, whether it's Ford vehicles being allowed to use Tesla's chargers directly or third parties connecting to superchargers via the CCS adapter, Tesla customers are concerned that this will add more traffic to the stations. And it's also a concern for investors that Tesla is lowering the barriers to entry for competitor EV makers, since now they will all have access to a robust charging network, whereas previously that was not the case, which is a deal breaker for many EV buyers. However, both of these concerns may not only be unfounded, but the benefits of opening up the Tesla network could turn out to be a huge positive for both Tesla customers and investors. Tesla views supercharging as a standalone business, almost like a startup within the company. In order to continue accelerating at this rapid rate, over 30% per year growth in supercharger deployments, it's helpful to increase cash flow and therefore investment. Tesla is planning to grow EV sales closer to a 50% rate, but with the continued addition of more third-party vehicles, Tesla simply has more options to optimize their supercharged usage. They have the ability to direct Tesla vehicles to underutilized chargers to help speed up the customer experience, or they can offer discounts at night and during off-peak hours to spread the load throughout the 24-hour period, which they already do. This means that customers will be paying Tesla for charging around the clock, and this investment helps Tesla build out more charging stations and even lowering the price, which we've seen Tesla do in the past. Both of these initiatives are actually great for Tesla customers. If anything, especially in the United States, most of the EVs sold are Teslas anyways, about 60 to 70% of all EVs in the country. And so Tesla customers should be most worried about waiting in line behind another Tesla customer. And so adding third-party vehicles to the mix could speed up Tesla's investments in strengthening the network for everyone. Another important reason for opening up the Supercharger network is that there was mounting government pressure to do so through the leverage associated with tax incentives. Depriving Tesla of access to a pool of billions of dollars doesn't bode well, especially in the long term, as the situation could have deteriorated further. So not opening up the network would actually be a bigger risk to Tesla that some investors may not realize now that Tesla has moved forward with the open source path. Of course, this removes some of the barriers for buying other types of EVs, specifically for Ford, which in a few years will no longer need any adapter to use Tesla's network. But again, Tesla still benefits tremendously by adding all of Ford's customers as their Supercharger customers. And there are still many other aspects that go into the purchase of a vehicle, and Tesla's efficiency, technology, and pace of innovation still remain a force to be reckoned with. So growing the Supercharger business is a powerful net positive for Tesla, and at the same time benefits third parties that want to get on board. It should still be noted that Tesla controls the pricing, and so non-Tesla vehicles do pay more for charging. One of the reasons is that they didn't buy a Tesla, and part of that money has gone into the Supercharger network. But Tesla is going to be offering subscriptions, which will include discounts to try to make Tesla stations stickier for non-Tesla owners. This shows that Tesla indeed wants the repeat business. Actually, one of the things that didn't seem to come up when Jim Farley and Elon Musk first spoke about the deal between Ford and Tesla is the pricing. Unless their deal is different, Ford users will be paying Tesla more than native vehicles for charging, and perhaps Jim Farley didn't want to highlight this during the announcement. But the reality is the Supercharger network is actually quite incredible. Consider that Tesla is in a sense becoming the world's gas station, and they have this massive lead in fast chargers. As they take customers away from other charging networks, it makes it much harder to reinvest and grow for their competitors. And they essentially just onboarded all of Ford's current and future EV customers. So Tesla is on track to continue dominating, but now at a much larger scale. In order to compete, other charging networks and EV makers may be forced to follow suit, adopting Tesla's NACS standard and relying less and less on CCS. And so Tesla is literally taking business away from actual gas stations and other EV networks. Since every supercharger is a connected device, just like all of Tesla's major products, they can typically be managed or diagnosed for issues completely remotely. Pricing can be adjusted remotely. There's no attendant needed, minimal maintenance, and this massive supply chain and distribution starting with oil, refineries, pipelines, trucks, etc. in order to refuel a gas station, not to mention maintain the pumps as they're dealing with flammable liquid. Most of this is no longer needed. The electric grid is fairly centralized, and Tesla has low maintenance products like Megapack and solar to help supplement their superchargers in a decentralized way. Now, gas stations are typically attached to convenience stores where the real profit is made, but Tesla doesn't seem to want to have to deal with this non-core business. However, they can negotiate good locations. Superchargers have small footprints and are easy to retrofit into parking lots, and so they drive business to nearby amenities, incentivizing restaurants and stores to want to have and install chargers for their customers. Even Ford CEO Jim Farley has mentioned multiple times that he loves the Tesla Supercharger locations, as he's told the story of how he's had to disappoint his kids by charging his electric Ford at chargers in sketchy areas behind buildings, since Ford vehicles are unable to make use of Tesla's chargers, which according to Farley himself hold prime, sought-after locations. Even Tesla's head of investor relations, Martin Viecha, noted this observation by Jim Farley and how his personal experience led, at least in part, to this company-wide decision. Now, for Jim Farley, not being able to use the Ford app for charging was a deal breaker for his partnership with Tesla. For one thing, Ford has partnered with a handful of other charging networks, and understandably wants the Ford Pass app to work seamlessly between them. They say they have 84,000 chargers on the Blue Oval network, but that only includes 10,000 fast chargers. And so with Tesla adding access to 12,000 fast chargers, this will more than double this number, which is very valuable to Ford. So it's interesting that Tesla agreed to this. They obviously really wanted it, although there may be some other behind-the-scenes stipulations that may not have been discussed publicly, such as paying for product keys to access Tesla's backend API. But this is just speculation, since typically third-party companies need to use Tesla's app to access Tesla's chargers, which is a form of free advertising for Tesla and has value. That said, Ford customers still need to pull up to physical Tesla chargers and watch how other Tesla owners are charging up at discounted prices. But Tesla seems to be simply ecstatic that Ford would be hopping aboard for their additional customers and truly solidifying their standard. Now, at the end of a CNBC interview, Jim Farley was asked if he thinks General Motors will switch to using Tesla's network as well. Farley says, GM has a tough choice to make. Do they want to have fast charging for a lot of their customers, or do they want to stick to their standard and have less charging? That's an interesting way to put it, and although it's a no-brainer for GM to make the switch, it may be somewhat embarrassing for General Motors and CEO Mary Barra, who has led the entire EV industry. Ford CEO Jim Farley did mention in one of the interviews that Ford and Tesla have been working on this for years. Ford likely has to implement Tesla's API in the back end of their software in order to connect to the charging network through the Ford app, and Tesla may have had to do some additional work to allow third-party configurations. The Ford-Tesla deal is still going to take a few years to be truly realized, and so even if GM magically got on board with Tesla's network today, it would likely still take years for the company to make the software and especially hardware changes to make full use of Tesla's network. Of course, General Motors is still the largest car maker in the US and has an important decision to make for the future of its EV business. Now, Ford has teased its own charging stalls that look strikingly like Tesla Superchargers. It will be interesting to see if Ford keeps this going with investments in its own charging stalls or piggybacks off of others. Tesla completely open sources their designs, but at the same time, Tesla is moving quickly, beginning to upgrade to V4 Superchargers, though they do have the 1000 volt spec all laid out for manufacturers on their website as part of the NACS standard. When asked about charging speed of Ford vehicles on the Tesla network, Elon Musk said during the announcement that the charger and the connector won't be the limiting factor, meaning that Ford's battery pack would still need to be as efficient as possible. And so this goes back to a note by Morgan Stanley, where they interestingly view the charging network as an extension of the battery pack, saying that the ubiquity of charging could impact the design of the EV's battery pack itself, and noting the analogy that iPhone would have had a massive and expensive battery pack if there wasn't ubiquitous charging. This is something Ford will have to think about as it designs its next set of vehicles and starts making its own batteries, and something that Tesla continues to iterate and improve on, which will enhance their customer experience, especially as they plan for a world of autonomous driving vehicles. So do you think General Motors should get on board with Tesla chargers, or is the company too stubborn to make the switch? And what else does Tesla need to figure out if they plan to have self-driving robotaxis charging at their network in the coming years? Don't forget to watch my video on Ford being ill-prepared to face off against Tesla's real threat. Please hit the like button and subscribe, we would really appreciate that. And a huge shout out to all of our patrons that help support our channel. Your support helps us to continue to make great content. Thank you guys so much for watching.